So could France be actually taking a strong squad to go and play New Zealand in New Zealand? Will it not quite be the young development squad that we were all anticipating it might be for those tests in July? It looks like there could be some movement on this front. Some people have criticised France before, saying they're not giving enough respect to international competition. And France have defended themselves, going, what else can we do? Look at the club season and when it finishes and when the international window starts. We have no alternative. But there seems like there might be a compromise. And have a look at this. By the way, please support the channel by giving it a thumbs up, leaving your comments down below, hitting subscribe, and make sure you watch the Pro D2 final, free to air across the UK and Ireland, live here on Saturday, 4:30 p.m. kickoff. Put the message out in your rugby WhatsApp groups and stuff. Support the channel because we're bringing free to air rugby, and not many people are doing that at the minute. So if you appreciate that fact, yeah, you know what to do. But here we go. The top French players could feature against the All Blacks as an agreement with the top 14 is reached. This is good news, isn't it? So what's the actual substance with this one? Well, the authorities have sat around the table. The different stakeholders have all sat around and said, right, what can we do? And they have said that some premium players will be allowed to go, but only those players that haven't played many minutes. And I think the number is, if they've played 2,000 minutes or more, they won't be allowed to go. Seems kind of reasonable. And of the two teams that get to the top 14 final, only 5 players involved in that match will be allowed to go, which again is reasonable because I presume they would have to travel after the squad are already out in New Zealand and probably join them for the second 2 tests. And a reminder on that front, and this is a little bit of a response to the people that say France are disrespecting international competition by sending a development squad for their tests in July. Let's just look at some logistics. France's top 14 final is on Saturday, the 28th of June. Right at the end of the club window. So perfectly a legitimate time to have your final. World Rugby make the rules about what the international windows are. France have put their final Saturday the 28th of June, 9 p.m. kickoff, local time. And then the first test against New Zealand is the following Saturday, which in French time is in the morning. So basically it's 6.5 days between kickoffs. And in that 6.5 days, I think some fans are expecting that France should, and they're out of order if they don't, send all of their players that played in the top 14 final to the other side of the world to play an international rugby match, just to demonstrate how foolish that would be. So let's say the guys are playing, it's Toulouse against Bordeaux in the top 14 final, let's say, in Paris, and the game finishes at like 11 o'clock local time. Bit of celebration or commiseration afterwards, maybe get your head down by 2 a.m. if you're lucky and not too wired on adrenaline. And then you're up in the morning because you've got an 11:25 flight to Auckland. No recovery, no stretching, no physio, no more getting the electrolytes in. You've got airplane food, please, and we'll get there in a day or so's time. And, well, 25 hours time. And then you arrive Monday night at 10 to 11 when you've got an international rugby match on the Saturday. That's nuts. For anyone to think that France should do anything else, it's nuts. But we've got some positives here because it's not just going to be kids. It's going to be players not involved in the top 14 final and who haven't played lots of minutes through the season. So what would that look like? Well, what I've taken here is one of the best French performances in recent memory, that win in Dublin in the Six Nations. And there is the team there. If you took out the players who have played too many minutes to be considered, so 2,000 or over or close to getting to 2,000, probably going to get to 2,000 by the end of the season, then you would take out those players. Antoine Dupont is obviously out because of injury, but Damien Penaud is played too many minutes. Louis Bielbiere the same. Yoram Moefana is close, so he's going to go over. Thomas Ramos is over as well. All of those other players are within the minute constraints. However, let's just for a second let's assume that none of the players that play in the top 14 final are going to get there. And let's just imagine it's Bordeaux against Toulouse in the final. They're likely to finish top 2 in the league, Toulouse are definitely finishing top. Bordeaux likely to finish second, so they'll be favourites to get to the final. If they get to the final, and let's say none of them are involved, that would take out all of these players. It would leave only the Lyon, La Rochelle, Toulon players left. Only 5 of them. and one on the bench, two on the bench. So, I mean, Bordeaux and Toulouse make up a massive chunk of the French national team. If those players aren't available, that will be obviously a huge dent. But what has been said is 5 of those players would be available. But before I get to that, let's look at the other players that could be involved. I mean, even Jean-Baptiste Gros and Owini Antonio, Michael Guillard, Gregory Aldrit and Paul Boudouin, and Oradou maybe into the second row, that would make a massive difference. This is what the French team could look like against New Zealand. Balbini from Toulon's been playing really well. Oradou, Giagu, they're class young players. Le Garec, he's getting close to the minute limit, actually. But Nathan Hastoy, Teo Atisogbi, Gael Fickou could play. I mean, I'm thinking the other side of the world, maybe they don't, but he could, and he might want to. Leo Barret's been really good. There are some players that need to come on, like Teo Mie and Mostan as well, centre and winger. They're going to need, on the wing and in the centre, they're going to need some new blood. But that doesn't look like a bad team. That looks like a team that could trouble New Zealand. I wouldn't necessarily say they're going to go and win, but they could cause them some problems. However, have a look at this. This is a team, if you then take all those new faces out, but you then consider what would the team be like going back a step if you had none of the players that have played over 2,000 minutes, and you could pick 5 players, because that's what they've said. You can have 5 players from the top 14 final, which would be, well, I've just done it there. You could have Malvaca, Flamont and Meafou, Jelonch and Jalabert. There's the 5 that I've picked. If you picked that could... it's all theoretical at the minute, but the point being is, there's going to be areas of relative weakness or inexperience for France. And in this example here, the back line is going to be a little bit undercooked, whoever they end up picking. However, France could go with an almighty pack, or they could go with some absolute ballers in the backs if they so choose. But probably this sort of a lineup would be for the second test, because I imagine that the 5 players that go from the top 14 final, and again, it might be Toulon that get there, in which case Jean-Baptiste Gros and or it could be La Rochelle that end up getting there, and it's Aldrit and Boudouin that end up being on the plane and going there. But if you have those 5 players available to you, they wouldn't be ready for the first test, but they might be ready for test number 2 and 3. So I guess, look, I'm going into some specifics there and theoreticals, but I guess the bottom line is good news. All of a sudden, there seems to be a spirit of compromise among unions and among leagues in rugby. We've seen the French top 14 agreeing to move their season so it finishes earlier to accommodate a Club World Cup. And now we've seen this, a little bit more compromise. Bit by bit by bit, they're getting there. And that's a good thing. And bring it on, because I want to see a spicy New Zealand v France series.